Basically, Inho calls Jihoon to his, I don't know, his office. I wanted to say lair. His lair. He calls him to his lair. Hey guys, welcome to LoveCast, the BL podcast. I'm your host, Kayla, and with me are my fellow hosts, Pixie and Alexa.
Hey.
Hello.
So today's episode topic started off with a very unserious idea that I had. I believe I was watching season 2 of Weak Hero, and I was like, you know what? I think we should talk about shows that feel like they should be BLs, but technically aren't.
Mm-hmm.
And then so that idea kind of segued into talking about bromance as well and possible queer baiting in shows. And then that segued into censorship. So we're going to be talking about some non-BL shows that personally I feel like are very queer coded. We're going to talk about the bromance trope and when we feel like it crosses into being romance, or whenever maybe showrunners get kind of scared and turn something into a bromance that's supposed to be a romance originally. And we're also going to talk about how a ton of danmei authors have been arrested recently in recent months. It's a really scary thing that's happening with the censorship of the danmei in China. So we're going to be covering actually like a lot in this episode. Bear with me.
It's a very in-depth discussion. There's a lot to talk about within this topic, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, somehow I would think of one thing and then I was like, well, this kind of relates to that thing and that thing and that thing. So it just kind of spiraled. But I feel like we should start off with the quote unquote fun stuff, and that's talking about some shows that we feel like BL but aren't necessarily. All of my examples happen to be K-dramas. I think just because I watch a lot of Asian media mostly. I don't know if you guys had any like examples of Western shows that I guess lean into the bromance really heavy. Maybe shows that have gotten some backlash for leaning into the bromance and not going full out with queer storylines or characters.
I think, and I have not watched this show, but it's just the one that everyone talks about in regards to this topic lately. The show 911, which is like, I think they're fire people.
I think
I've
so.
never watched it.
But there's two of the people in that show, Buck and Eddie, have had like this, what fans have seen as like a very, very slow burn friends to lovers situation going on for I think 9 seasons now. And especially in the most recent season, there was a lot of like promo and like, so okay, I actually know a lot of the lore, but in the previous seasons, one of the main characters did come out as bisexual. So that was kind of like an indication to fans that like, okay, this is actually in the realm of possibility because they're not both straight. And then in the recent season, I guess a lot of like the promotion and some of the storylines in the show were implying that that bisexual character was exploring the idea of maybe having more than friends feelings for this person who has been his best friend. But from what I saw, as the season went on, they kind of really dropped the ball with it and it didn't really go anywhere. So now a lot of fans are kind of feeling like, because a lot of the promotion was talking about like, ooh, is Buck and Eddie finally going to happen? They were sending those two actors to do a lot of promotion together. And like that is, for a lot of people, the selling point of the show. I think there are other queer characters in that show that I don't think get talked about as much as those two, and those other characters are sapphic, so I think there's something to be said there. But a lot of the main promotion of like this recent season was around like the will they won't they of Buck and Eddie, and because it kind of seems like they dropped the ball for another season, I think a lot of fans are feeling very frustrated by that and are feeling like the show might be leaning into a little bit of queer baiting by trying to keep the audience hooked with the possibility of it. But this is just all like I have not watched a single episode of that show. I get served TikToks on edit sometimes, and I see like a lot of people's like discussions just being in proxy to other people who have watched the show and being on Tumblr. That's where I've gathered my information. But I feel like that's the Western show that I've seen in recent years, at least, people talking about the bromance, like this feels like it should be something, but technically isn't yet type of scenario.
Yeah, my immediate thought went to Supernatural right away with this. For anyone that's been like in the fan fiction BL space for like the past 10 years, know about this ship. Like it's so prevalent. Like if you watch the show, they even have its own episode where there's like this play being put up, and in the play they're shipping the two characters, and it's very meta and it's very funny, so they leaned into it a lot. So it's Cass and Dean, the angel and the brother, and I mean, I applaud them for leaning into it, but like everyone knows that it's not really like there's a love declaration and everything, but they're maybe like more.
And then didn't one of them like die immediately afterwards or something, or go to like
Oh, no.
hell or something like that?
Dude, Dean has been to hell like 3-4 times. Like they've died so many times. They always come back. No spoilers, but it's a long show.
Show's
honestly,
old as
I
hell.
don't think I haven't seen like the last season or whatever.
It ended like 5 years ago or something, at least, didn't it?
Has it been that long?
Something
I feel
like
it
that.
ended. It's like, yeah, no, it went for 16 or 17 season.
Too many seasons.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it honestly got
I
too
dropped
many
off after
seasons.
like season 5 of that show.
Oh, I loved it. I almost watched all of it. I kind of fell off at the end there, but I loved it. There's even been people that have been shipping the brothers. But obviously that is kind of on the dark side of things. And I think there was some drama as well with the actors not in the beginning, at least, not liking the fact that their character was like being shipped as gay. But the actors have both embraced it in like the aftermath, so I don't think it's a big deal anymore. But I know the actor that plays Kaz, Misha is his name, Misha Collins, I think. He goes all out on platforms like TikTok and everything. Like he is in it for life. I love that man. But yeah, I love that they kind of leaned into it, because you don't see that in a lot of shows, and acknowledging it, even though it's not part of the story. They probably rewrote some of the story when they saw how popular it was. Like, obviously, they made the fanfiction episode, so... No, that episode is wild. I recommend anyone to watch that. That is wild.
Yeah. Believe it or not, I never got into Supernatural, but I was on Tumblr whenever it was, I think, at its peak popularity. So it's like funny listening to you talking about it, because I'm like, I vaguely remember that happening, but I was watching it from the outside.
Yeah. I think like the fandom is still very much active. Like,
Oh, for sure.
people love this ship.
I was saying, like, when we were kind of doing some of the planning for this, I recently watched like a video essay, maybe I'll put the link in the description, specifically about like homoerotic friendships in sitcoms, and this idea that so many sitcoms use like the two guy best friends who are basically a married couple, but make a lot of jokes about how they're basically married, but they're both straight. So like it becomes like the butt of a joke. Like they talked about Sean and Corey and Boy Meets World, who like one of their whole plots was that like Sean basically threw a tantrum when Corey was gonna get married because he thought like their whole relationship would be like over, like his relationship. And like there's episodes where like one of them has a girlfriend and they have to like, the girlfriend forbids them from seeing each other because she's weirded out by like how close they are and things like that. It's like those kind of tropes are used a lot with like male friendships and sitcoms.
Yeah, I just like when you were saying that, it just popped into my head. The Big Bang Theory
that was in the video essay. Yeah, that was in the video essay that I watched.
Yeah, they lean in heavily to it.
But it's like, yeah, it's almost like making, sometimes it can lean into like making the idea that these two people could be gay to each other like the butt of a joke in a bad way. Not all the time, but some of it is just like, okay, we're getting a little bit misogynistic here, we're getting a little bit homophobic here. But I do see that used in a lot of like sitcoms with the male friendships, like we're basically married, but it's funny because we're actually straight and we would never touch each other type thing.
Yep. That's really interesting. I think I never really thought of it from that perspective, but now I'm like, yeah, they really do use like the possibility of two people being gay as comedic relief. That's so weird. Yeah, I really tried to rack my brain for like a Western example, and I don't know if this counts because I don't really have anything to say about it, but why was I like High School Musical?
Troy. Oh no. Chad and what was his
Ryan.
name?
Chad and Ryan.
Yeah. The iconic clothing swap.
Yeah, that's literally all I could think about was that.
That's so funny.
I know that they've talked about it in recent years, being like, yeah, the director Kenny Ortega like wanted to make them something, but obviously like Disney. That would be very difficult. They'd probably receive a lot of backlash. But yeah, that was the one example I was like,
That's so funny.
Was that a bromance? Enemies to lovers? Who knows?
Something was cooking there.
Anyway, I feel like I have to talk about Weak Hero because that is literally what gave me the idea for this episode. So I just want to preface this by saying that the cast did this interview or like a press conference where I guess they were talking about the relationship between the main character and this other character that I'm going to be talking about. And Ji-hoon, who plays Shi-eun in the series, the main character, he refers to this other character that people ship him with as his first love. And then Hyun-wook, the guy who plays the other character, he describes their relationship as like a high school romance, and the director like was in full agreement with them and was basically like, yeah, it was what they had between them was like more than friendship. So I'm just going to preface that before I get into this. I think it's going to be really difficult also for me to not explain why people think that this show was bordering on BL without giving some spoilers.
Fair.
So I feel like I have to give some spoilers. Spoiler alert for Weak Hero season 1 and 2. So basically, people ship the main character Shi-eun with his classmate Soo-ho because they have this very strong bond that a lot of people feel like it goes beyond a normal friendship. They even share a lot of moments that feel very flirty. Like there's one in particular that people always talk about where Shi-eun is like sitting on a bus and Soo-ho comes riding by on his motorbike and Shi-eun opens the window and they're having this like little exchange at like the red light, and Soo-ho basically says to him, I think we were married in a past life. So like there are a lot of moments like that where they have these interesting exchanges where I'm like, oh, why did you say that? Interesting. And I think a lot of people also point to the fact that like Shi-eun is a character who never smiles. He's extremely antisocial. He suffers from PTSD from past school violence that he endured. So for the longest time, it's like he doesn't let anybody in. He definitely doesn't smile. But when he meets Suho, he somehow like chooses to get close to him, and that's the first time that he smiles, is like when he's with Suho. And that's the first time when he starts to open up to the idea that like maybe he is isolating himself from others, maybe he should try to like make friends with people and have some greater purpose in his life beyond like fighting school bullies, and trying to like take revenge on people through violence. And I think the second season is what really affirmed the BL theory for people, because, spoiler alert, at the end of season 1, Suho falls into a coma. And so season 2 is basically Shiun. His whole life purpose becomes like monitoring Suho when he's in the hospital. Like, he's sitting by his bedside. He's so depressed. And he's trying to protect him from the new bullies that he's dealing with at his new school, because the new bullies realize that Shiun cares a lot about Suho. So they're trying to target Suho in the hospital.
Jesus.
To hurt Shiun. So it's this whole thing. I'm sure there are a lot more moments that I'm just like completely overlooking, but I know that a lot of people, like even the original readers of the manhwa, they have always felt that there was like a homoerotic undertone to Shiun and Suho's relationship. And people do ship like other characters in the show, like Juntae and Gotak are two of Shiun's friends that he makes in season 2. People ship them. And then there's Baku and Baekjin. People also ship them because they used to be friends and then they're like sworn enemies. And there's a lot of like tension between them. So people have this joke that like in season 1, Shiun was the gay character, and in season 2, everybody's gay. But the one that I think people actually feel very strongly about is Shiun and Suho having something going on. Something. Who knows what it is. But that is, I think, the big example of a show that a lot of people feel like they should have went all out, having some kind of like romantic relationship between those two male characters, but people think that they maybe chickened out, or they thought that they wouldn't be able to get sponsors, which I think we'll talk a little about. But yeah, that is one example of a show that feels like BL, but I don't think is, but I wish was, and I will watch it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think another big one recently, it's having a resurgence because season 3 just happened, is Squid Game. This one's a little silly, but Inho being in love with Jihoon is like a pretty popular theory in the fandom, to the point where I'm pretty sure this series is the series that brought back the term old man yaoi. Like, the first time that I read the words old man yaoi was in reference to Inho and Jihoon.
That's so funny.
I'm pretty sure this show is the reason why that like phrase started becoming popular. But yeah, a lot of, I think, BL fans call this show old man yaoi because a lot of them ship Jihoon, who is like the main character throughout all the seasons, and the front man Inho, who is basically like the game master running everything. Like when season 2 was airing, I swear the only edits and memes you would see was like ones of them being in a relationship, quote, like people shipping them together, ship edits. But again, I guess spoiler alert, because I don't know how else to explain this without giving some spoilers for season 2 and 3. But basically, in season 2, Inho goes undercover as a player, and his whole agenda is to get close to Jihoon so that he can like study him. because he's very fascinated by the fact that a former winner would come back after they've already won to compete again. Like, he's like, why would this man do this? What's his deal? But somehow, some way, he starts to actually care about Ji-hoon. Like, he doesn't really, I mean, he's the front man. He doesn't care if people dies, but for some reason, he really locks onto Ji-hoon. And there were so many moments in season 2 and 3 where Ji-hoon should have died, but he didn't. And the only reason he didn't was because In-ho was pulling strings behind the scenes to keep him alive.
Interesting.
So, like, he was basically trying to, like, rig the game in Ji-hoon's favor twice. But there was a moment at near the end of season 3 where I started to kind of feel myself that there might be some truth in In-ho having, like, one-sided feelings for Ji-hoon. Because I think it would be a one-sided thing if it were a thing. But basically, In-ho calls Ji-hoon to his, I don't know, his office. I wanted to say lair. His lair. He calls him to his lair in the middle of the night when everyone is, like, passed out drunk. And he gives him a knife. And he tells him to go and kill the rest of the contestants so he can win.
Oh.
And so he gives him the knife. He's watching him on the camera. And he starts, like, getting choked up when he's watching Ji-hoon. And he starts crying because he sees that Ji-hoon chooses not to kill anyone. So I guess you could say that In-ho was moved to tears because when he was put in the same position, he did kill everyone. Like, he chose to do the opposite thing. So maybe, like, seeing Ji-hoon's humanity brought him to tears. But I also kind of think it's fun and harmless to be like, oh, he was saving him because he likes him. Like, it's not that serious, but also a lot of people do lean into the, I guess, the BL of it all when it comes to Ji-hoon and In-ho.
Yeah, I mean, there are many screenshots of In-ho staring at Ji-hoon.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I was just looking at edits right before we filmed this. I was like, wow, this just affirms the theory. But yeah, that's another show that I guess some people put a BL spin on, but it's not BL. I don't think people feel as strongly about it as Weak Hero per se, but that's a thing, a BL theory. And then the next one, I don't really have anything to say because I haven't actually watched it, but a lot of people think that the Devil Judge was supposed to be queer in nature because apparently the characters Johan and Gaon give major age gap yaoi vibes. And yeah, like, I haven't watched it, but all the clips I see are super homoerotic. They're saying stuff like, I'm willing to die for you. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, I haven't watched it either, but the amount of people I've seen that have said that if you are a BL fan, you should watch this show is insane. So apparently... But listen, I get a little bit annoyed by Bromance. Like, it's just like, it's kind of like they're giving you a little bit and then just taking it away. And I'm just like, no.
Yeah, it drives me crazy too, honestly. But I think there are, like, levels to it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What I do hate is when they take a novel or manga that is BL and remove the BL element. They did that with
what did that happen to?
That was like there was like a gangster. Was it Japanese or Korean? Like, it was like a school. I never watched it because I was so provoked that they announced that it wouldn't be gay. Like, it's from a gay manga, but the remake, in live action, wouldn't be. And
it was a Korean one.
Yeah, I think it was.
I don't remember what it was called, but I remember that being a controversy. Someone will know.
Oh, dude, people were mad. I just remember like it was sort of like a gangster feel to it, but I think they were in school. I can't. It's been a while, but I hate that. Like, no, we're in 2025. No, there's enough straight shows. There's enough straight stories. Just go with another story. Don't ruin the gay stuff.
Yeah, I always wonder if it goes back again to like them being afraid that they're not gonna get sponsors or funding for the show unless they water it down.
Don't do it, right?
Right.
Like, what's the point if you're gonna make it straight?
I don't know, because then even the original fans of like the manhwa are gonna be pissed off. So
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know.
No one's gonna watch it.
Yeah, that is crazy. Okay. So my final example is a series that is my favorite K-drama of all time. So yes, I'm a little biased. But I think this one is the one that people probably feel the strongest about, just for like certain reasons. Because the one character, Mojo, is a canonically gay character. Like, he even briefly has a fling with this guy in the series, but then he ends up killing him, which is a whole it's a whole other thing. And obviously, if you've seen the show, he's a serial killer, and his whole thing is that he gets obsessed with his new next door neighbor, Jong Wu, and he tries to basically groom him into becoming his protege serial killer. And so it's like a very dark show. But it's so obvious that Mojo is like very in love with Jong Wu. Like, it's not even funny. First off, there's the fact that he hates his girlfriend so much, and he gets so jealous when he's with her. I think he even kills her. if I'm remembering correctly, I think he does. And Mojo always like tries to prepare meals for Jong Wu, and yes, some of those meals are human flesh, but I feel like it's the thought that counts. And then
it's giving Hannibal a little bit.
Yeah, and then he makes some handcrafts carefully a bracelet for him made out of human teeth, because he's also a dentist during the day.
Yup.
Honestly, it sounds like a show that I should watch.
It's so good. It is the best K-drama. And he watches him sleep through a peephole in his apartment wall.
Love it.
And okay, Jong Woo's whole thing is that he has like really bad anger issues, and he gets so angry that he sometimes pictures himself acting out violently towards people. And Mojo encourages him to express his emotions through violence. He supports him. He embraces him for who he is. And he even calls him his boyfriend at one point, because he catches Jong Wu like on the rooftop hanging out with one of his friends, and he comes up and he's like, "What is my boyfriend doing up here? What are you doing with my boyfriend?" And then he's like, "Do I have to like punish you for like sneaking off or whatever?" And there's a lot of moments like that. There's a lot of moments where he just says really like possessive, unhinged things towards Jong Wu.
Did I see that one of the actors is the same actor from Goblin?
Yep. Lee Dong-wook, yep.
Okay, that tracks. Because if you think about Goblin as well, we can discuss the whole bromance going there.
Yeah, no, I think the fact that it's Dongwoo and Siwon, who are like two actors that I also love, I'm like...
Dude, I love him. Oh, I should watch this show.
Yeah, it's so good. I really recommend it to everyone. But I also think that maybe it's not fully one-sided, because Jongwoo's whole thing is that he's an author and he's trying to write a novel about a serial killer. So of course he's really drawn to Mojo and kind of like abandons all of his morals that he would typically have to also get close to him, kind of for inspiration. He's using him as his muse, but also like Moonjo is using him as his muse. So, I mean, call it a fascination if you want, but I think they might be madly in love. And I think that if the series ended how I wanted it to end, then Jong Wu would become his protege and they would just be two gay serial killers who are in love. I think that's how it should have ended, but
Honestly,
I digress.
10-10 story.
10-10 story.
Yeah, there's a lot of examples in Korean drama, and it does kind of make me wonder if it comes back to the pushback that queer romance being shown on screen in Korea gets often. Or I also think like most of these examples aren't super funny, but there is a lot of mainstream Korean media that does also kind of lean into that like homoeroticism for comedy. Like there's a lot of dramas where they'll have like guys kiss each other as a like, you know, an accidental kiss, or someone's disguised as a woman and they kiss, and it's like hee hee ha ha, you don't know that's actually a man that you're kissing. So like I do think they also are a place that leans into like and takes a lot of humor out of like playing up being gay for jokes, but I also think like there is a lot of more like serious media where it seems like it would very much go there if it wasn't for potentially the backlash that they're aware that they might get, or and the pushback and things like that.
Yeah.
Do you think like especially like in the last year or two, there haven't been a lot of BL coming out, especially compared to before where we had like this boom of BL from Korea. Do you think it has something to do with the political climate that has gotten more conservative recently? That they're walking the wrong path. I just noticed like there are some BLs that have come out of Korea, but a lot of them have been really low quality, a low budget. Some with great stories and stuff, but like we're gonna get into it with Love in the Big City, but there's been, I feel, more pushback.
I feel like I don't know enough about Korean politics to comment on if I think that's having any impact on things. I know they recently impeached like a very conservative president, but I think Love in the Big City got that pushback because it was meant to premiere on like such a mainstream platform, and they also like had a movie of the same story coming out at the same time. So not to say that that's like a unique case with that story, but I do think that's why the pushback for that show was so vocal, because I think a lot of people are fine if queer media remains indie, because they feel like it's not being shoved down their throats. I'm putting that in quotations for anyone who might be listening. But then like once you bring it into the mainstream, I think you do get, and I don't know if it's necessarily that there's more conservatism, but I think that once it comes into the mainstream, the conservatives become more vocal. Yeah. And I think that's the case in many countries, not just South Korea. But yeah.
I will say like when Semantic Error came out, it was getting a lot of traction mainstream. Like it was huge mainstream. People were saying that they were going to Korea. They saw promotion for it like out in the streets. Like it was pretty mainstream. And like while it did get some backlash, it wasn't at the same level as Love in the Big City. And I'm wondering if that has with the timing of everything. I just think like from what I've heard about politics in Korea, it does seem like it's gotten even more conservative the last year.
I don't know. I can't speak to it.
Maybe it could be that like Semantic Error was directly promoted like as a BL, but Love in the Big City is more like queer media that's tackling like issues that maybe conservative or mainstream, you don't really see as much, like HIV, abortion. Like
Yeah,
maybe it's just the content that they push back
maybe,
more
but
on.
I don't think like the what do we call it? The common people will know the difference from BL and queer. For them, everything is gay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Me neither.
Yeah,
I'm
because
just thoughts.
I posed the question of like, why does it seem like all the K dramas I mentioned, they're like very hesitant to actually make the characters gay,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if I really have an answer to that.
I
Like,
feel like we probably are not the people to, I don't know. I feel like we would need to speak to someone who is like in Korea and like
Mm.
knows the climate of the media
Mm-hmm.
there better. Um, but yeah, I mean, we know what we know. Like we know what we see, and we see that there is like
Yeah.
pushback and elements of censorship. But yeah, I feel like from an outsider perspective, it can feel kind of like hard to comment on. I don't know.
Yeah, at this point, like it's just speculation. Like I wouldn't call it anything else. I'm interested. It like stuff like this is interesting to me. So if anyone listening are in Korea or know of the political situation, everything, it would be great to hear your opinion on it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it just interesting.
Mm-hmm.
mhm.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in this example. I think you wrote it, Alexa, about the show Kill Me, Heal Me.
Yes. So this is a show. It aired in 2015, and basically the premise is there is a character. The main character of the show has dissociative identity disorder, and one of his identities is like the 17-year-old girl, and that the girl in that identity is obsessed with Park Seo Joon's character in that show. I watched the show like 10 years ago. I can't really remember what his character's name was or what his role was, but like this identity when it comes out is like obsessed with, in love with Park Seo Joon's character, and it goes so far as to like when the actor in the show is Ji Sung, who plays the character with DID, and when he's in this personality, this identity, like he's dressing up in like a Korean schoolgirl uniform, like, you know, like his character is in that moment, she is a teenage girl, so you know she's putting on makeup, putting on a school uniform, and like there it goes as far as to like she kind of like there's this one scene that's iconic where she like jumps on Park Seo Joon's character and kisses him, and the show, I can't, like I said, I watched it so long ago, I can't really remember or speak to the accuracy of the portrayal of DID as a whole, but I think that particular identity and persona was kind of meant to be comedic because there's this visual of this very grown man who is the actor Ji Sung playing someone who is identifying as a 17-year-old girl being obsessed with another grown man, and so like that visual of just like Ji Sung being obsessed with Park Seo Joon, kissing Park Seo Joon, like from my memory it was played off as a very comedic thing.
Yeah,
And it
sounds
even
like
went to
it.
the point of like the show aired on NBC, and Park Seo Joon and Ji Sung won the Best Couple award on
Crazy.
NBC Drama Awards that year. And it was another thing where like everyone laughed because like, you know, it's like, I don't know, it's a little bit murkier because like he's identifying his identity at that time was someone who was a girl, but I think the visual of what the show was portraying was kind of meant to be a little bit like, this is funny because it's two men and one of them is obsessed with the other one, and it felt like it was played a little bit comedic at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just something that came to mind. Because I had like this very distinct memory of there was a year where two men won Best Couple for at one of the drama awards, and at first I thought it was Gong Yu and Lee Dog Wook. Like I was convinced it was them at one point,
I
but then
wish.
I was searching more, and it like triggered like that whole show in my memory, and I remembered like that
Wow.
whole portrayal of like that storyline in the show. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, just an example of,
Hmm.
yeah, I don't really know how it falls into things here. Like I said, there's a mental health element to it that makes it a little bit murkier, but I do think like the visuals of what they were going for was meant to be played as more of like a comedic thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm not hopeful that the way they were portraying the mental health issue was
Yeah.
great in the first place.
Oh my God.
So
I have
there was
written
probably
whole
like,
essays on mental health portrayals in Korean drama when I was in school, so I don't really remember it, but I'm sure I was not super thrilled with it at the time.
well, I guess we can get into like what is the difference exactly between a romance and a bromance besides like the obvious of like the characters kissing or like affirming that they're in a relationship. Like, what kind of criteria do you feel like a bromance specifically follows?
That I was really struggling trying to think of like how I would categorize a bromance and like what is it about it that makes it a bromance. Cause like I feel like in my brain, like you almost kind of have to separate it into shows that are bromance because of censorship, which is like a lot of like the Chinese dramas that we see, and then like shows that are bromance just for the sake of being bromance. I think. I do think one element is that someone else in the show like acknowledges that there is some kind of weird chemistry going on between like I feel like maybe not all the time, but it's often like recognized by other characters in the show that the relationship that the two people in the bromance have is like a special relationship, maybe beyond the bounds of normal friendship. Like I think that is there was often like someone else in the show that is like acknowledging that the relationship these two characters have has something going on. And it's not just like something that the fans are, I don't want to say imposing, that's not the right word. It's not something that just like the fans are reading as fans. Like I feel like the show often kind of plays into it as well by having other characters acknowledge it.
Yeah, but sometimes the shows play into it because the fans did it first.
Yeah, I mean that I think that's true in Western dramas because like they're often like seasonal and serialized. I think with Asian dramas we don't see that as often because they're typically already like filmed and air like written and filmed fully before they air. But I do think that can be the case with like Western shows that are written seasonally and like have the time to like rewrite things as the show progresses.
Do you think, like show like Goblin, where I would say that the relationship between those two that is portrayed as a bromance, was that on purpose? Or do the actors have such great chemistry together that it just magically happened?
Yeah. I don't know. That was like kind of one of my things. I was like, does the intentionality of the writing matter when we're categorizing something as a bromance? Because I think a lot of these shows like do lean into it and like I said, like have other elements that acknowledge your relationship, but there are, I think, instances where the show is just trying to portray like a friendship and like you
Yeah.
said, maybe it's the actors' chemistry that really like takes
Just
it to the next
takes it
level.
over the small like gray line. Yeah. I do think it's really hard to see the difference between um like really strong emotional male friendships and bromance. And I think like a lot of men have issues with deep male friendships because they're afraid of being seen as gay, which is sad.
I feel like
But
that could also
yeah.
kind of be why we see a lot of like the Western shows like hone it, like lean into the funny element of it because
Yeah.
they don't want to tap into like the really serious, like we have a genuine emotional connection, but we are genuinely just friends. So yeah,
That's where
it
you get
is
the
like,
joke, no homo joke from.
yeah, literally. Yeah, I think it can be really hard, like to kind of like, and it's hard when like you don't always know like the intention of how the show was written. I think that probably plays into it a lot. but I do think it is like really hard to kind of navigate, especially when you're like, for us, I think we are mostly watching queer shows. So I think, and as a queer person, I think I naturally view everything through like a lens of like, this could be queer.
Everyone is gay until someone says something else.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I think sometimes you have to step back and be like, okay, maybe it's fine if they're just meant to be friends, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, straight people do exist, so you kind of...
That's news to me.
Somehow.
Somehow. Yeah, I mean, that just segues into my thought of like, is it being dismissive to kind of automatically say like, oh, these two male characters who are very close are gay, instead of just like being like, oh, they just have like a really meaningful friendship that's almost like a brotherhood in a way. So
it's a non-toxic normally brotherhood, but I do feel like, why does it matter? I think like with the patriarchal culture community like we have, people are offended for being perceived as gay, and that's an issue. For me, it's like, okay, you're a good friend, someone calls you gay, why does it matter? You're not gay, so why are you getting offended? Why are you getting yeah.
No, I know what you mean. Like, it shouldn't be taken as a negative thing, basically, for someone to make the assumption that like your close friendship like might not be just a close friendship. Why
Yeah, it reminds me of you talking about how the cast of Supernatural like embrace the shipping after the fact, like, because it really is like one of those things where it's like, well, does it really matter?
Does it really matter
if people were reading the characters as gay or not? I don't know. But yeah, we talked a little about the intention, which you can never truly know what the intention is. But at the same time, like, everyone is allowed to interpret something how they want. Like, everyone's going to interpret what they're watching differently. I see you mentioned High School Friendemy and Peaceful Property. I didn't watch either of those.
Yeah, it's hard because I have not watched either of those shows either, but I feel like in the Thai drama sphere, they are the two recent examples I can think of shows where people thought that it was meant to be romantic or that it should have been romantic. With High School Friendemy, it is based loosely, I think, on a K-drama called School 2013. I did watch that drama, and it was very much like there was very much a huge sector of the people who watched that drama who read the relationship between the two main characters as romantic. I think with this version, with High School Friendemy, it gets a little bit murkier because of the way GMMTV promotes Sky and Nani in the show.
I was gonna say that's Sky and Nani, right? Yeah.
And so I think that is partially like, I think there's based on like the base material that I know, there is a lot in the show that like can be read as romantic, and I absolutely understand why people read the relationship that way and think that the characters had a romantic relationship. But I do also wonder if like the way GMMTV is promoting GMMTV or promoting Sky and Nani as like, they are promoting them as a bromance ship, but also like they are walking that line of like, they're a bromance, but like we're categorizing them with BL basically. So I think it's a really interesting example.
They've never specifically said that Sky and Nani are doing BL, right?
They specifically say that their series are friendship series. So they are kind of leaning into the bromance title.
But they're also literally like a ship.
Yeah, so they're being looped in with a lot of like, they basically are promoted the same way their BL ships are promoted, which is, I think, what makes it like a really interesting case study almost.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the right word, but it's just a really interesting like the shows are claimed to be friendship. They promote themselves as like a friendship pairing. Their shows as like more bromance shows. They've said the same thing about their upcoming project. Like as of right now, they're saying it's a friendship series. But GMMTV basically promotes them the same as their BL couples with like some minor differences. Like they have separate like what are the characters that everyone has. They have separate characters, and like they don't put their ship names together fully. Like there's usually that little dash in there, so like there's like little small differences, but at the same time it's largely being promoted the same as their BL and GL pairings.
I have an issue with this.
And I think a lot of fans do too,
because they are doing it. They're trying to replicate the BL factor they get from the BL pairings, but doing it like this. This to me is queer baiting. Because they're using their BL method of like promoting and putting them in a pairing, which is, even in Western media, when have you ever seen like a pairing that's just a friendship pairing?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't happen. It's not a thing. So they're obviously riding on the BL fans, the queer community, to gain popularity for these guys, which I have no problem with Sky and Nani. I think they're super cute. I wish they would do BL, but I have an issue with how they're promoting this, and to me it's queer baiting.
I will say, like, by definition, queer baiting is not a term that can be used for real people. Like, it's specifically meant to be used for media.
Yes,
but
I understand.
I get what you mean, but I know like someone's gonna say
the
that.
Situation,
so I just wanted to...
how they're promoting it is queer baiting. I'm not saying that Sky and Nani themselves are entities of queer baiting. I'm saying the promotional situation is queer baiting. They're selling a product, right?
Yeah. I think what happened is High School Friendemy aired and people started shipping them, and GMMTV did not want to lose out on that momentum.
On the money.
So, on the momentum, the fandom and stuff like that. So they are trying to, I don't know, almost test the waters, I think. I think, and we've talked about this before, I think there are fans that see the same frustration in it. There's a lot of people that don't like that. Like High School Friendemy did not go there, despite the way that like the pairing is being promoted. I have seen people call the show queer baiting, and I have seen people go the other way and say, hey, sometimes a show is just about genuine male friendship, and
it
doesn't need to be
that.
Queer.
Sometimes shows don't need to be BL. They can just be like deep, meaningful relationships. But in this situation, I think like the promotional aspect of it is the issue, not that they starred in a show that was a friendship show, right?
Yeah. I feel like I'm so like separated from that fandom. Like, I don't really know how to feel about it. It's just so interesting that it's like, it seems like people don't want them to be lumped in with BL because maybe they see BL as lesser than, maybe they see them as being above that genre, but at the same time, like, they like them topping a lot of
their chemistry.
I just think it's a really, like I said, I don't know if the word case study is the right word to use, but I think it is a really interesting, like, show pairing of people, form of promotion that really, like, ties into a lot of this discussion here, but I don't know if I have answers anyway to anything about any of it, if that makes sense.
Literally, my only thought when you brought up Sky and Nani was, ain't nobody watching their shows thinking it's a friendship. Like,
right?
Nobody is watching their shows, maybe, and not like shipping them in them. Even if that's not the intention of the show, I feel like the fans are still going to ship them together, even if the show is just a bromance. So,
But there interestingly is a subsect of fans that don't want them to be looped in with like BL and shipping culture. So that's what makes it like really
but honestly,
interesting
I will
to me.
say that some of those fans, I'm not saying all, I'm not doing, but some of those fans might be saying that for homophobic reasons.
Possibly.
But not saying anything definite. I'm not gonna put people in a box. But sometimes when you see people talking about it, you do get like red flags for the reasons why they don't want them to be in BLs. Like sometimes the comments that come are really like, that is not how you should have said that.
Yeah.
maybe there's also like an aspect of their fans not wanting them to be pigeonholed into a certain genre.
That I get. I mean, a lot of the BL couples do get stuck in BL, and if they try other things, the fans don't always follow. Like, there's some that have been successful after BLs and used it as like a stepping stone. Fine. But not everyone, like a lot of the BL couples that have been in BLs before, don't do BLs anymore. They've fallen off the limelight. I might be saying that just because I don't know what happens outside of BL.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not the only one who doesn't know what happens outside of BL, which means that the fans don't actually follow along always.
I don't know. But the way that GMMTV promotes them is very interesting.
It is like it's like I would say like fascinating to me, but not necessarily in a positive way. Like I just yeah, you know, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then like with Peaceful Property, I think it was largely just because it was Tae and Nu and they are a ship, and so people were like, well, why not make it romantic if you already have a BL ship in it? But I know even less about that show than I did High School Friendemy.
I haven't watched it either, but
I don't know if the vibes were actually there between the characters.
Yeah, that's the thing. From what I've seen people talking about it, they leaned into their ship without actually following through.
Interesting. Well, someone who's watched both shows, maybe give us some more insight, because I know a lot because like I'm constantly locked in with the BL fandom and like what people are saying about stuff, but not actually having the context of watching the shows and seeing the relationships. Like it's like I can only say so much.
There's too many shows. We can't. I don't have time for the straight ones.
I don't even have time for the gay ones now, so
valid.
Equality, no time for any shows.
Equality.
So I feel like we can jump into talking about the C-dramas now and the censorship that we've seen going on. Because, there is an argument that many of the Chinese BLs, I guess it's not an argument. It's a fact that a lot of them get censored. And a lot of them 100%. End up just not happening due to censorship. There are a lot of regulations, I guess, and some of them are considered explicit. I don't actually know if they like have explicit content or they're just categorizing like LGBTQ plus content as explicit. But it really reminded me of like the 1930s Hollywood thing with the Hays Code, where things were prohibited. Well, depictions of, quote, sexual perversion were prohibited in Hollywood films. And of course, like at the time, LGBTQ plus themes and characters, anything of the sort fell under those guidelines. So a lot of the writers and directors started queer coding the characters. They would usually give them very like stereotypical mannerisms and personalities to kind of like hint that they were queer, but they couldn't outright say it. And that's actually the origin of a lot of like villainous characters
Yeah.
having like a queer fan base.
Queer-coded villain
Yeah.
characters. Yep.
Queer-coded villain characters, because they would just make the characters like so eccentric, almost like, I mean, it was like caricatures of gay people, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like every Disney villain ever is like very, very queer-coded. Funnily enough, while you were saying that, I went back to High School Musical 2 and talking about how Kenny Ortega, Sharpay, yes, also, but like talking about how like people did what they could to like show that characters were queer without being able to say it, like makes me think of Ryan and Chad and like that
That's
scene
true.
of them switching their clothes. But yeah, I think so many Disney characters and so many Disney villains have been like, we've seen like so many people have had discussions about how queer coded like Disney villains often are, and things like that, and that Disney is heavy on, or at least in the past, even still now probably, has been fairly heavy on queer censorship. So because they're family friendly, which gets into a whole nother discussion, but yeah.
Yeah, so the whole Hays Code thing, it made me think, like, were other countries' media inspired by that kind of like guideline, or did they have their own in place? I don't know the answer to that. And just like, could queer coding be the reason why in BL we used to see so many like gay male characters that were portrayed very stereotypically? Like, there were a lot of characters that were almost like predatory, or they would just be like the butt of the joke. So I was like, does that originate from the censorship as well?
One
I
thing
don't know.
that I think is very interesting about especially like Chinese BL dramas is the fact that the fans talk often about how they see the character on screen. Saying they dub them. They dub them with Chinese voice actors. So, but you can tell what the character is saying from reading the lips. And they can tell that they're saying something super
different.
gay.
Yeah.
But it's been dubbed over.
Oh my
That
God.
is so fascinating to me.
Yeah. No, I think that the Chinese Danmai and C-dramas are like a very interesting example because they are canonically queer like relationships, but they're toned down for the sake of censorship. And it kind of makes me think of like, we were going back to like, what do you define as bromance? Because these relationships are canonically romantic, but because due to censorship they aren't having explicit declarations of their relationship, they aren't showing physical touch, like they get deemed bromance by the general fandom. So it's very interesting, like why, like it kind of goes back to that, like why do we categorize something as bromance? Like what do we need to consider something a romantic relationship? Like, is that declaration of love needed? Like, we know that with the C-dramas, at least, they are in romantic relationships.
Yeah.
But,
I
you know.
like my thing with especially like the C-dramas is that it's very clearly the two main characters are male. That is what makes like, okay, this is a bromance. Like, there's no female lead at all, like Untamed or Word of Honor. Word of Honor was crazy. It's like the most explicit C-drama you can get. And a lot of people were surprised it went through censorship, and it was probably just luck, honestly. But yeah, wasn't there like a C-drama based off of Priest, like a Guardian or something? No. What was the name?
There's one called Guardian, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Something.
And,
I'm pretty
and
sure
that's,
there's
obviously like the author writes gay stories. So, and that's the thing with the C-dramas too. Usually there's a novel that is super gay.
Yeah, so like the source material is like explicitly queer, so like fans go in knowing that these characters are meant to be in a romantic relationship if they're familiar with the source material, but for censorship reasons it's all been toned down. But in my brain I'm like, does that make it less of a romantic relationship, or do we just put the term bromance on it for the sake of like
Right.
censorship, basically, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, because shows have been taken down before for being too associated with romance. Like Addicted. We never got the end of that even. But that
Yeah.
was more explicit than the other ones I know. But still.
Yeah. It's just very
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Once again, I don't know if I have an answer. I'm just like
No.
throwing thoughts out
Yeah.
into the void here.
I will say, like, this is kind of a little bit random, kind of a little bit of a tangent. The Danmai authors tend to write very explicit content in their novels that borderlines too explicit. I'm not gonna say that something is too explicit. I'm just like the degree of things that happen is like, whew, it's a there's a lot of red flags in those novels. I'm saying from experience. I've read a lot of them, and I have no problem with it usually. The thing is, with the whole censorship in China, do the Danmei authors, are they have like more explicit stories because they've been censored so much that they're sort of letting everything go into the novel? I find stuff like that really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes me think of like the origins of yaoi as a whole, like writing this form of media as a way to express stuff that you feel like you cannot express publicly, to explore sexuality in a way that you feel like you cannot explore safely in the real world and things like that. So like it doesn't surprise me that like in the writing, which is a form of media that they probably at some point felt was much safer.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like with what we're going to talk about now, we're learning that it's not necessarily safer for them. But yeah, I feel like it could have been an avenue for them to explore like sexuality to whatever degree they wanted to in a way that felt safer compared to exploring sexuality in real life, which can be very dangerous, you know, for a lot of different reasons. So it does kind of make me think of like the origins of like just yaoi in general, and like we kind of know a little bit of that history. So it wouldn't surprise me if that was at least an element of it.
So more recently, we've been seeing a number of Danmei authors being arrested in China. Heather shared an article that was really good that was about this, so we could probably link that in the description too. But it's been reported that at least 30 authors have been arrested on obscenity charges in the past 4 months, and pretty much all of them are like women in their 20s, which is very young to be arrested for, I don't know, any type of crime. But basically this, I guess, uptick in arrests is happening because the Cyberspace Administration of China, which is basically like a watchdog group, an online watchdog group, they've been cracking down on online content that, quote, has a negative impact on teenagers. Direct quote from them. And queer content falls under that ban. So yeah, the censorship in China is the reason why we don't see as many BLs coming from the country. And as we said, like some of them have managed to get past restrictions by leaning more into the bromance thing, trying to separate themselves from being queer, even though we know that they are. But I feel like most of the Chinese BLs end up being canceled. Like they don't even make it into pre-production, production. They don't even air. So it's just a situation right now that's it's really scary for authors, and I feel like all kinds of artists, because like anytime you're censoring art, it's very dystopian. It reminds me of one of my favorite books is Fahrenheit 451, where they're like burning the books that aren't allowed. It just like very much gives off those type of vibes. It also reminds me of like some of the legislation in America where they're like taking
Mm,
certain books from libraries. And it
Mm-hmm.
just is a very slippery slope of
yeah.
like, okay, now they're censoring um, authors who are writing LGBTQ plus content. Where
Mm-hmm.
is it going to go from there? Like, how far is the censorship of just like artistic work and self expression going to go?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you often see like, are banned book lists a thing outside of America? Like, you
It,
know how they release like the banned book list every year?
yeah, dude, it's not a thing here, at
Okay.
least.
Yeah. And like some of the titles you see on there and like the reasons that they're being banned, it's just like even beyond like I don't know, it's just so ridiculous. This is even beyond like current America, like even going back like 10 years, like banning books that talk about segregation, anything to do with race. Like this has always been like censorship in that form has always been here. um Banning books that criticize the government, like books like Fahrenheit 451, have been on banned book lists for decades. But it is interesting to see it, not interesting, it is scary to see like them getting more and more specific, I guess, more strict with the type of things that are being
Mm,
banned. And then like knowing that that happens in other places as well. Like I'm sure this cyberspace administration is banning other books beyond LGBTQ media, but like specifically seeing like that being such a major target of it is always very scary.
yeah. I mean, they were also targeting gamers a while back. Anyone that were gaming. And like China, esports is huge. So it was a huge thing at the time. And that was, I think, like 2, 3 years ago. I haven't, there hasn't been like a lot of news coming out of China. It's kind of hard to know what's going on, especially since they have different social media platforms that they use. And so, like, the information doesn't always trickle through. But did I see someone talk? I don't know if I dreamt this. I might have dreamt this, but think I saw someone mentioning that the authors that have been arrested now, their books were on the darker, explicit side, depicting child stuff,
I have
more
no idea.
taboo, top sexual stuff.
Yeah, I have
I
I'm,
don't know.
no idea.
I'm,
It doesn't say anything like that. And I read like a couple articles about the whole arrest
yeah.
situation, and I haven't read anything like that.
Mm. But I was just wondering because media has this thing about trying to make things more scandalous, and it's more scandalous that they're just taking LGBTQ books out, authors out, um, and not. Well, it's still scandalous that they're arresting authors, but yeah, I feel like I read somewhere that they did have very, very, very explicit content, which doesn't make it okay. But like, no one should be arrested for a book. Like, I don't care how dark that book was, but
I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm looking through the one article Heather sent again. I don't know. Another like really scary like privacy aspect of this is that they did strip searches
yeah, that
Yeah.
is
when they
fucked
arrested
up.
them.
That
That's
is
pretty crazy.
crazy. It does show how important it is for these authors in China and stuff to use synonyms when writing. Like, no one can write under their real name. Um, because yeah, they basically, most of them should probably be careful but like earning money too, because money can be traced back to you.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's just the idea that Apparently there is a law that says that people are allowed to like create obscene material in artistic context, but they're like completely throwing away that law. Like they're just like they've been ignoring it in order to arrest people, which is very America coded.
Yeah, I was gonna say, isn't that what's happening in America right now?
This law exists, but we're actually just gonna ignore it and do this anyway.
Dude.
Oh. I don't even know what
no.
else to say about the situation. Like, I just think it's really sad from the point of view of like an artist, I guess.
Yeah.
Because like, yeah, we're not getting like Chinese BLs, but people, like actual people's lives are being impacted.
Yeah. The getting the media is like the lowest issue here. Like, it's very scary for those authors, and I'm sure authors who haven't been caught up in this are probably scared and hiding their media and doing what they can to keep themselves safe. So that is definitely like very, very scary to think about.
I think like it shows also the importance of pride and the queer community being seen worldwide, and how important it is to garner like acceptance in like all of the world. Because I think that because there's been like a lot of pushback against pride recently, and I think a lot of it comes from the political climate of America, and it's affecting a lot of different countries. Like even here, people have been like the whole month of June, people have been spitting on people with pride flags. They've been stealing them. They've been like causing a lot of issues with people just trying to live their lives. And it like what I'm trying to say, it's like when there's unrest about these issues in one country, it kind of reverberates throughout the world. And if the like big countries like America was more acceptable to queerness, like it would sort of spread. But it shows how important it still is, or even more important, to have pride and all of that.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't know how to wrap up this discussion because I just don't know. We're ending on a kind of sad note, but yeah, I agree that it is important to just, I think for like creatives, I guess, we should just keep creating more LGBTQ plus content. I don't know.
Safely. Don't put yourself
Safely.
Well, I mean, there is like art as political protest like is a thing, but you know, protect yourself and also be prideful, and it's a hard line to balance these days, but yeah.
I would really love to know if there were any shows we didn't mention that you feel like should have been BL or felt like they were BL, but they didn't actually lean into it. That's my first thing. The second thing is I would love to know what everyone thinks the line is between bromance and romance. Like, what is it that makes something bromance, and what is it that makes it romance? And that's it. Those are my questions. I'm testing everyone. This is an exam.
Yes. Be sure to leave your answers.
Leave your answers below, and I'll grade them. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this episode. It was a very detailed one. Let's say that. Very detailed. Make sure that you give this video a like, subscribe if you haven't, check out our Patreon for more exclusive content. And yeah, do all of the algorithm things. And that's it. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.